Good evening, you're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. The Sultanate condemns the bombing attack on a London Underground train and calls on uniting international efforts to eliminate all forms of terrorist attacks. Iraqi forces attack a desert outpost of the Daesh group near the Syrian border. And the volume of credit in commercial banks in the Sultanate during the first half of 2017 exceeds 20 billion Omani riyals. Those are the headlines, and now for the news in detail. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs in a statement has severely condemned the bombing attack on the London Underground train yesterday, which led to 22 being injured. The ministry wished a quick recovery for the injured and stressed the Sultanate's solidarity with the United Kingdom to combat terrorism, calling to unite the international efforts to eliminate all forms of terrorist attacks. British police made their first arrest today over the bombing of a London Underground train, detaining a man at the country's main ferry port and describing the development as significant. 30 people were treated in hospital after the bomb detonated in a packed train carriage yesterday morning. It was Britain's 5th terrorist attack in 6 months. The improvised explosive device failed to detonate fully, but the blast inflicted flash burns on passengers while others fled in panic. Police in the southern port area of Dover said an 18-year-old man had been detained and he is due to be transferred to custody in London. Yesterday's incident, claimed by the Daesh group, led to the national threat level being raised to critical, meaning another attack could be imminent. Iraqi forces attacked a desert outpost of the Daesh group near the Syrian border today, in preparation for a drive up to the Euphrates Valley towards the frontier. The assault targeted the former mining town of Akashat in Anbar province, some 100 kilometers south of the militants' borders bastion of Al-Qaim. Iraqi commanders estimate there are no more than 300 civilian families left there, a former railhead that was once a major source of phosphate production. The militants also control a second enclave west of the ethnically divided Kurdish-held city of Kirkuk, centered on the town of Hawija. A promised offensive against Daesh there has been delayed by a row over the controversial referendum on Kurdish independence, planned for later this month. The Parliament of Iraq's autonomous Kurdistan region approved a plan today to hold a referendum on independence on September 25th, ignoring opposition from Baghdad and the wider region, as well as Western concerns that the vote could spark fresh conflict. Parliament reconvened in Erbil, the seat of the Kurdistan regional government in the northern Iraq, where an overwhelming majority of the Kurdish lawmakers taking part backed the plan. It was the first session since Parliament was suspended nearly 2 years ago, though only 68 of 111 lawmakers attended due to a boycott by the main opposition movement, Goran. Some lawmakers wore Kurdish flags and rose to clap and sing the national anthem after the vote was passed. The Baghdad Parliament decision earlier this week to oppose the referendum drew condemnation from deputies in Erbil. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said his country is nearing its goal of equilibrium in military force with the United States, as the United Nations Security Council strongly condemned the North's highly provocative ballistic missile launch over Japan yesterday. The North official Korean Central News Agency carried Kim's comments today, a day after US and South Korean militaries detected the missile launch from the North Korean capital of Pyongyang. It traveled 3,700 kilometers as it passed over the Japanese island of Hokkaido before landing in the northern Pacific Ocean. It was the country's longest ever test flight of a ballistic missile. The UN Security Council accused North Korea of undermining regional peace and security by launching its latest missile over Japan, and said its nuclear and missile tests have caused grave security concerns around the world and threatened all 193 UN member states. Rohingya refugees are crossing the border into Bangladesh every day and making their way to cramped camps, but the facilities are far from adequate for housing such large numbers of children, especially who are at risk. The United Nations Children's Fund, UNESCO, said that up to 230,000 children have no access to basic needs, and around 36,000 of those children are less than a year old, and 92,000 are under 5 years old and living in squalid conditions of the refugees. They are vulnerable to the spread of disease, and there are about 52,000 pregnant and lactating women among the refugees. According to the latest estimate, around 391,000 refugees have crossed into Bangladesh since violence erupted, making it one of the fastest growing refugee crises of recent years, leaving aid agencies overwhelmed. Still to come in our news bulletin. Al Roya newspaper launched an incentive to clean the Omani beaches in order to protect the marine environment. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. A seminar on improving work in the tourism institutions was held in the governorates of North Sharqiya. It aimed to train and qualify the cadres working in the tourism sector, as well as acquaint the project owners in the governorate with the latest updates in this field. It also focused on a number of programs related to preparing touristic guides, customer service, in addition to various workshops that will contribute in exchanging knowledge and expertise among the participants. The volume of credit in commercial banks in the Sultanate during the first half of 2017 increased by 4% to exceed 20 billion Omani riyals. The Central Bank of Oman pointed out that the personal loans occupied 40% of the total credit to reach 8 billion riyals. Meanwhile, the construction sector credit reached around 2.2 billion riyals, recording 11%, followed by industry sector, which got around 1.4 billion riyals. The number of guests in 3- to 5-star hotels increased by 4.8% by the end of July 2017. The National Centre of Statistics and Information pointed out that the number of hotel guests reached 867,000. It also clarified that the total revenues of these hotels reached around 180 million Omani riyals. According to the statistics, the European guests number was the highest, recording an increase by 33.6% to reach 346,000. A cleaning campaign was organized in the governorate of Muscat with the aim to clean the beaches of Oman and make them more attractive, as well as to protect the marine environment. The initiative was launched by Al Roya newspaper, and the campaign will tour around the governorates of the Sultanate with the participation of representatives from public and private sectors. It also aimed to spread awareness among the members of the community on the significance of preserving the environment, as well as making the youth participate in voluntary work activities. And now for the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Partly cloudy skies will prevail over the coastal areas of the governorate of Dhofar and its nearby mountains. The rest of the Sultanate will have clear skies with chances of scattered rainfall over the Hajar Mountains. Winds will be southerly to southeasterly light to moderate, and seas will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1 meter. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. The Sultanate condemns the bombing attack on a London Underground train and calls on uniting international efforts to eliminate all forms of terrorist attacks. Iraqi forces attack a desert outpost of the Daesh group near the Syrian border. And the volume of credit in commercial banks in the Sultanate during the first half of 2017 exceeds 20 billion Omani riyals. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsrooms and the studio, it's good night.